first of all, for me, and this is my words, Bart, our best midfielder, our best all-round midfielder, Alexis Mac Allister, who has been sensational this season. He can play in a multitude of positions, but it always seems, no matter how tired he is, no matter what's going on, Arne Slot wants him on the pitch for obvious reasons. Just because, for me, he's the best player in there. So, Bart, I am genuinely fascinated as to what these stats are going to say in this regard. So what do they say around Alexis Mac Allister?
I think it's important. As a completely non-stats thing, I think Mac is probably our most intelligent midfielder. I think you can see that in the way he changes his role depending on the game. But because we're looking at stats for this one, I've done my usual. This is a whole season kind of level of stats, right? So what we are on average and our splits and the rest of it. But we're not really here for that. We're here for looking at what our individual players have done for the whole season. So Mac is a line here. Someone needs to ignore because it does some weird dividing stuff. We'll just ignore that. But Mac has had in the games he started, all right? So it's important to note a lot of these stats are based on when he started, not a sub-periods where the game stayed and all the rest of it kind of affects on it. He has had 1,887 touches, 60 of those in the penalty box. He's had 35 shots. He's had 11 shots on target. He's only had one shot in the 6-yard box, 24 in the penalty box. He has had 4 big chances and he's scored 3 goals. Okay, and that's kind of been around 3.45 XG, and he's created in total for the season 7.4 threat when he started. Okay, so he's sort of threat to XG as an individual player is about 46%. That's fine because he's a bit more of a cog than an end result. His overall average for passing is 87. Which is still high, still above where we need it to be. And the rest of it don't have to. A long ball rate of 7.9 for him, so that's sort of in between some of the others. If we look down, so this gives you a little idea about what happens to Liverpool's performance, should we say, when Mac starts, right? So when Mac starts, we win 78% of the time. Okay. Nice. And when he starts, we typically concede, or we would have conceded, all the games he started, we should have conceded something like 26 goals and scored something like 66, which when you look at it in a kind of working out in ratio down what you start with, so Mac, that means it's 0.81 goals conceded a game and 2.6 scored a game. All right. Wow. So, and that's a really good marker if you think about it. He's not the 6 and he's not an attacker. It's sort of that player that sits around. So he prevents. So he's part of a unit when he's on the pitch that we basically concede at less than 0.9 a game, which is very, very good. And we score over 2 a game when he's playing. Okay, so that's sort of Mac. I've got some other bits and bobs for here, each individual player. We've got passing, this is overall for everything. So Matt, where's his average passing position to on ball for the 2 halves? You can see generally in and around that left space. And the second half is typically a little bit further forward. Okay, so this is on average for all the games he started. All right. These are his chains that he's involved in. Typically, he's involved in a lot of very low, which is fine. It's a pop, move it around. But he's also in quite a lot of the medium level ones. Okay, so what about, is it the important stuff? So where does he get into? So you can see here he's very dominant towards the left side half space, which is where he's played a lot of time. And there's a few instances where he's even appearing in zone 14, particularly in that first half. Second half, not so much. But so that left side of the zone 14, as the eye test would tell you as well, that is generally where he kind of picks the ball up. All right. True. To give you a bit of an idea about his operational zones, I'll give you sort of breakdown there. So when he's played, so Max only played as a midfielder, all right? The others have had other roles, so that's just important to know. He's only played as a CM for us or an 8/6. His dual success for the season is 41%. His aerials is 37, which, not a big shock because that's where he is, right? And his average amount of threat he creates for the team is 8.5%, which is good. Considering your top players are about 16, 18%. For a CM sitting in that kind of pocket, that's not a bad little rate. As I said, his pass rate is there and his rest of it. But if we look at, so who does Mac pass to the most?
Yeah.
Not a big shock, I'm hoping for you, is Robertson and Van Dijk. Yeah, he's playing on the left-hand side of the pitch. Those are his two kind of triangles, right?
Yeah.
He hits Robertson at a 97% pass rate and Van Dijk is at 96% pass rate, okay? I mean, typically, he's got a pretty decent pass rate between all of them, but he hits Cody 100% of the time. That's 65 out of 65 passes he's made to Cody in the games he started. And Costas, he's hit him 100% of the time, 66 passes in the games he started, okay? Nice. The lowest one on that list, I mean, it's a bit harsh to pick out him, but it's something like Diaz or Dom or Canate, because they're a little bit further out. Diaz plays a little bit higher than Cody, but there you are. So, and in terms of which passing combination creates the most threat without the season, we are looking at, I think it's 0.9 here, which is Luis Diaz. So although that's what I'm saying, Van Dijk a little bit, that's because Van Dijk wouldn't switch it. But in terms of a forward pass, Diaz, although it's a more risky pass, it also is the combination that creates the most threat. All right, so it puts Diaz in a position for him to go and create something. Van Dijk, that'll be because, as I said, that is typically the pass that Van Dijk makes, and then he gets a set for Van Dijk to then do a switch.
Right.
So with the switch is a massive threat creator because you're putting normally Mo in a real danger area, right? So it's a long pass. So that's why that's probably up there without going back and reviewing the video for times and times again. Now, Max on off the ball zones. Okay, so on ball, as I said, that left kind of half space in the centre. Off ball goes back in the centre half and the left half space. So that's typically what he does on and off the ball in terms of on the ball. On the ball, we see his passing connections with Diaz being the most threat created, but his most regular one being Robertson and Van Dijk. Just to give you an idea about where his threat areas are. So first off, this, I think, tells you how we are as a side as well. Typically, for a long part of the season, we were quite reserved first half, which is this kind of indicates. He's very concentrated in there in the first half, just here, not doing a lot. Second half, though, look at how he goes about. And that, when I showed you the 14, zone 14 and a half space splits in terms of passing, that's where he goes about and starts moving around and appearing in these areas in the second half, which is really, so he's can often be that player to then go, we need to go with this, boys, and get in the areas and do it. Real Madrid, it was at Newcastle midweek, we need a second goal. I'm going to go and do it. And he did it. That just gives you an impression of where he is all halves of the game. But if we look at off the ball, as I've said, he is very left side dominant. Also, all of them go a bit more, they're a bit deeper off the ball second half than our first half. And he's also a bit more central areas. So this is normally where we'd be stopping the transition. So because we push up a little bit tackling wise, we also then try and stop the transitions on us at that point. XG, now Mac hasn't scored a lot. This one I'll take a bit of time to load because it's quite big. So he hasn't scored a lot. He's only got 3 goals. But these are all his shots for the time. So he's fairly concentrated in central areas. But when he has scored, they're in the box. Yeah, they're all his goals have come from a shot in the box. He's not really, apart from maybe the one last season with Brighton where he hit it from long distance, he's not really known for that. So he's in the box, he's scored, and he is a very central shooter. You look at the amount here that are basically a 5-yard box around the penalty spot. That's where Mac likes to take his shots. His periods where he's typically looking to create a lot of threat and a lot of XG. His highest one there is the first 15 minutes. and then he's got a period straight after half time being his second most. So the two starts of the halves, Mac is normally on it, trying to get XG, threat, trying to get us going again. If you look at the areas in which he has created XG, so typically a fast break, penalty corner, those kind of things for Mac. All right, so that's where he's created those opportunities. So yeah, I think fair to say Mac is a very important player for us. That he's not quite hybrid, but I think he has a distinct first half, second half profile, should we say. First half, let's just keep things tight, should we say? And second half, if we need to go and grab the game and go and do it, he will go and do that, create the threat, and hopefully the opportunities for us to go and score from. But he's not necessarily going to score the goals for us. He's only got 3 all season that he started. So yeah.
Interesting. As the saying says there, the midfield strategy of 3/8 is so well balanced. The lack of a specialist shows itself at times, but there is quality in every third. And that's probably what we're seeing with Mac. As you said, he is that hybrid almost. He can play all of those areas. But I mean, Bart, when you just look at those stats that I took from you, when Mac starts, we win 76% of our games. So essentially 3/4 of the games, we're winning if Mac Allister's starting. That one as well, when he's on the pitch, we are averaging around, I think he said 2.6 goals scored and only 0.8 XG conceded. Yeah. So that's a marked difference. I mean, it's close to 3 being scored and it's below 1 being conceded. And that area, especially on the left-hand side, like you said, he opens up that Van Dijk switch. He is so important based on those stats, isn't he?
100%. I mean, he's 2.06 in terms of goals created, but yeah, the point is still a massive difference. Yeah, he is really important. It's really important to have an intelligent player there because you've got to link what is. I mean, Cody's coming to his own. It's a little bit different cross position, but Diaz can be a bit street ballery. Doesn't really run the script, that kind of thing. So you've got to have an intelligent player to put the ball where you know Diaz is going to be, right? Yeah. Cody's relatively easy. You know, if he's told to be on Y, he's going to be on Y. Yeah, so therefore you can get to the ball to him. But yeah, and also to make sure that Van Dijk has got the right set for him to play the ball, he's also a really important component because we play so quickly when we do that. It can't be in the wrong place. It's got to be perfect. So yeah, I think he's really intelligent. He's also, I think, beginning of the season, I don't know about you, away at Arsenal was a prime game of this where it just looked like at times the physicality of the Premier League or the speediness was getting to him. Whereas I think this last run of, I would say, 10 games, he hasn't shown at all. He's been setting the tempo and we've been able to, especially this last block of 5 who effectively won the league, he's been very, very been able to dominate. So I think he's learned a lot, I think, in that first period and gone, right, I can only do A, B, C, D, therefore, but what I will do is I'll do it really smartly. And I think Slot uses him quite well when he pushes him into the 10 and asks Dom or someone else to drop in. So, yeah, I think I still like Mac in the 10 because I think he's absolutely, his intelligence is so high. I think in some really, really big games, I think you just need that high level thinking to unlock it. But that's a very small sample size. The rest of the time we can play in the 6-8 thing. So, yeah, I think it's fine.
John P, shout out to him. He makes a few points there. We forget he did have that soft tissue injury and he was carrying it in internationals. Argentina were almost making him play with that knockout times as well. And backs up your point as well. Good phrase in there. The number of midfield intelligent enough to do what Maka does for us is so small. I think that's the big thing is game intelligence. That IQ is just a higher level than the others. And it probably, to finish on Mac, do you think it almost has to be because he doesn't have the physical attributes the others do?
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of it is down to that. I mean, if he had the physical attributes as well as everything else, then blimey, we'd have a player that everybody would be asking for. But no, I think he does because he has to think that little bit ahead of what the opposition are going to do. So, I don't think he's not slow, by the way, but he's just slow off the march, we say, right? So,
true.
if he had all the physical attributes and it didn't have the intelligence, he wouldn't be as used to us. I think you're right. The combination of him being intelligent makes up for him not quite being physically as quick off the mark. He does everything else. He can run for all day, but it's just that quickness in certain mobility bits that he hasn't quite got.
Yeah, and the stats back all of that up. Frightening from Mac Allister. Let's hope he carries on at this level.